bring the museum back to life.
You know, people sit out on the front porch hoping people will come by.
Go forth and do good.
It's insane. I have the most understanding wife in the world.
I treat everybody the same thing.
Oh, that's the other thing I love about Marietta. It's like a melting pot.
You are listening to Marietta Stories. Each week, veteran podcaster Bill Nowicki brings you the heartwarming, interesting, and fun stories from the people that make the community of Marietta, Georgia, a place to call home. Here's your host, Bill Nowicki.
All right, here I am in an undisclosed location in Marietta for a upcoming rehearsal for the Marietta Theatre Company. I have Jeff Cooper and Blaine Clotfelter, and they're founders of this 501c3 organization, and they have an upcoming show, but I wanted to know what it's like to try to start theater in Marietta. Jeff, I'm going to start with you. Tell me about how you got bit by the theater bug.
Well, I personally got bit by the theater bug going all the way back to high school. And then when I went to college, I got too busy to do that. But then right after college, really got involved in my first community theater. And that's really where I got the bug for community theater. And Blaine and I actually met over 20 years ago, showing up to an audition for a show, and have been friends ever since. And
what was it about Blaine that, I wouldn't say attracted you, but what was it about Blaine that you noticed?
Had the same theater bug. Blaine and I are a lot alike in some ways and very different in others, and I think sometimes that's what builds a really strong friendship. And just the fact that we had this common bond of being in a show together. It was a small show, and typically you become close to your fellow actors in a show, but particularly in a small casted show of 4 to 6 actors, you really build a special bond. And that was, we were a lot younger back then, and so it was a time in our life where that bond, you build those that bond, and we've been friends ever since.
So what was that show you guys met at? Do you remember?
It was called Forever Plaid, and actually, I know we'll get to this, that actually was the first show of Marietta Theatre Company's season this year. We weren't in it, but it was such a great show that we ultimately decided to make that the first show of our season.
We did it for 16 years.
What's that?
We were in Forever Plaid together for 16 years, just performing at charity events or birthday parties or whatever the case may be. So that helped solidify that friendship. Doing it for that long, if you can put up with anybody for that long in an intimate setting like being on stage together, then you know that things are pretty good.
All right. Well, Blaine, you grew up in Marietta, Georgia.
I did. My whole family's from here. I went to the same high school that my father and grandfather went to, Marietta High School. So I am from Marietta, absolutely.
And what keeps you living here?
I don't really have.
You probably have opportunities, don't you?
I don't have anywhere else to go. It's just, our family's been here. My wife is also from there. She's from Peachtree City, but both our families, the entire family, with very few exceptions, are still here, and so it's just kind of instilled in us that's we'll do the same thing. I mean, Jeff's the same way. His family is down there or down south of Atlanta and have been there forever. So I never thought about going anywhere else, really.
Well, tell me about what it was like here on the square, especially in the theater area when you were growing up.
No, that's great to talk about, because it's part of what we're hoping to even replicate a portion of that with Marietta Theatre Company. When I was a kid, middle school is when I first got on stage. I think my mom was tired of me yapping all the time, so she put me on stage so they could give me something to say. And we would go to shows at Theater in the Square. And growing up, getting into middle school and into high school and afterwards, I could tell that Theater in the Square was kind of the place to be. I mean, everybody went. Everybody had season tickets. Growing up in Marietta, I knew so many people from church and school and whatever the case may be. And we would see them at the theater. And just thinking back on that, when we started kind of putting our company together, that was definitely something that we wanted to try to replicate, because I just remember so fondly how much fun it was, and there was a buzz about it.
And so you had that energy, it sounds like, from the community. We have so many distractions now, and on-demand viewing. You can watch Wizard of Oz anytime. I remember when I was a kid, it was on like once a year, right? Yeah. But how do you compete against something like that? How do you get that buzz back?
we're careful to choose shows. I mean, there's so many different shows out there now and places to go see shows, honestly, that there's something out there for everybody, even people that don't think that they would enjoy seeing a theatrical production, a live production, if they haven't seen it. There's something out there that they would like. And so we just want to give people that opportunity, or that option, maybe is a better word, to, instead of going home to watch Netflix while they're up on the square, instead of leaving that great restaurant and going home, or going to see a movie where you can't really look at the person next to you and make eye contact and give a little chuckle or a little nudge. In our shows, we want to give them that opportunity to kind of spend a little more time. You've got intermission where you can go out to the concession stand and just kind of talk about what you've seen in the first act and talk about how it hit home, or how you liked it, or how you didn't like it, or how great the actors were, or how I could have done that better than they did. It's conversation. You can't really have those about a movie and about anything else, really. So we just want to give people that option to try something a little different. And so far, we think it's worked. People enjoy that. We've had a lot of people that don't normally go see a show that have seen our shows and have said, that was better than I expected. That was fun. I'll do that again.
Now, Jeff, what did you do I'm going to go back and forth like a professional journalist, but why did you guys decide to start this company, and why not just use existing theater company?
All of us and our other two partners, Katrina Stroop and Jean Ann Riggs, we've all done shows together at different times over the course of our friendships, and have done a lot of theater, quite frankly, around Atlanta. And we've had different experiences, some positive, some not so positive. And so when we talked about putting something together ourselves, we agreed that we wanted to create an experience not only for the patrons, but for everybody involved in the production, for the actors that were involved, for the technical team, because it takes a lot of different people coming together to put on a production. And none of us do this for the money. We're not for profit. You do it because you love theater, but it really does take a real team. And some of
you can't just have like some joker on the lights. You can have the best actors in the world. If the guy doesn't turn the lights on right, or the sound's not right, it's going downhill.
You're exactly right. And so what we set out to do was we want to bring the best folks together that want to be part of it, because the experience is so good. Just like for our patrons, the experience is so good, we want them to come back. Because of all the experience that we've had, we've been able to assemble a team that really is some of the best folks in the business, and they want to be involved because the experience that we're building is positive for everybody involved. Again, not only for the patrons, but for the actors, for the technical team as well.
Here's something you don't hear very often. We're receiving emails, unsolicited emails, and handwritten notes. I can't remember the last time I wrote a handwritten note and mailed it to somebody, from actors and actresses thanking us for the great time they had doing what we did. We like to say that we're a no drama company, and there's a lot of drama that goes on behind the scenes of putting on a production. I mean, it's stressful, and you got to learn lines, and you have limited time, and you're getting there from work, and you're late, and you have to leave late, and you don't get much sleep. But for actors in our first season to be sending us notes saying, this was the most incredible experience I've ever had. I enjoyed every minute of it.
Well, go back to the beginning. So you decide to start this company, and then how did the first season go?
Well, we've got one show left in our first season. So the first 4 shows went extremely well. We did not know what to expect. Our first show, we had to scramble to assemble the marketing and how to get the word out about it, because we were behind the 8 ball. When we decided that we were going to do a full season and had access to the Lyric Studio where we perform, we just didn't have that much time. It took us about a show and a half to get a show ahead, which we needed to be. So we're thinking of that. We're already working on the next show. If there were 1,050 seats over our 11-show run, we filled all but 20 of them, I believe. And that was for First Date, which was an incredible cast, an incredible show. And so we were thrilled to death that we could do that. Our show after that was right there with it. So within our first season, we've already hit some successes that we were hoping to hit, but weren't really sure that we could.
And I think we would be remiss. Not only have we had good houses, but we were able to secure a couple of sponsors that really provided that seed money, who sort of, bought into our vision. We had healthcare program advisors at one of our big sponsors, Unum. We had a couple of individuals, Morgan McNeil and Lee Foster, that, kind of bought into the vision. And without that, we wouldn't have been able to even get everything kicked off. But butts in the seats does definitely contribute. And from an actor standpoint, you want that butt in the seat because that's why you perform,
Well, you got to feed off the energy, right? You need people there.
You do. I mean, our job is selling tickets. I mean, behind the scenes, that's our job. It's selling tickets, whatever it takes. We feel like we let the actors down if we don't fill the seats as much as we can. And one other thing I'd like to point out, just in case we don't get to it, is that Zach Phelps is our artistic director, and he's been a part of the vision from the get-go as well. Zach's from Marietta, went to Pebblebrook High School, attended the conservatory in Scotland, and got his degree in theater there as well. But he directed our first 3 shows. Elizabeth Weaver directed our 4th show, Marvelous Wonderettes, and that's what puts that good feeling in the patrons' hearts when they're seeing a show. If the direction is not good, then the actors, no matter how good they are, can't do anything that they need to do. But Zach Phelps has been a big part of growing this, helping us select shows, because we've got to select the right shows because of the space. They won't all fit. We can't have a lot of actors. We can't have any sets, really, much set. We can't have a bunch of props. There's nowhere to put it. It's a big thought process, starting with nothing and figuring out how to use the space to accomplish what we want to accomplish.
Now, how does he approach the directing and getting things straight? What's some of the feedback he was able to give you and kind of increase the quality of the show?
Well, we pretty much turned Zach loose. We don't have time to come to rehearsals and look over his shoulder at all. I mean, it helps that we know him. It would be harder to do that with somebody that we didn't know. But we know Zach and the work that he can do and the talent that he has. And a lot of the feedback comes from the actors. So we look to them. If there's a problem, we would expect the actors to say, I can't work with Zach, or there's a problem, or whatever the case may be, they can point that out to us. So silence is good. And that's all we got, except for the applause at the end of each show. I mean,
And the personal notes, like you said, we've actually gotten positive feedback from our actors about the overall experience, which of course includes working with Zach and the rest of our team.
Right now, you're on a brand new show. What is it?
It's called Title of Show. It gets its name from the entry form where you write the name of the show that you're doing for this New York Musical Theater Festival. And that's part of the reason it's been tough to market this show, because I actually had a friend of mine call and say, I'm trying to buy tickets, but you don't have the name of the show on there yet. And I said, that is the name of the show. It's called Title of Show. But it's about 4 friends who want to write a musical, and they have 3 weeks to write it because the entries are due in 3 weeks. And so they said, we're going to just write everything we do for the next 3 weeks. And whatever we have, we're submitting it. It's a musical. It's a lot of fun. We're having a great time doing it, but that's what it's about.
Sounds like there's a lot at stake right in the beginning. You only have a short amount of time, and you got to get it submitted.
Well, that's funny. So there's 3 weeks to write the show. We only have about 5 weeks to rehearse the show. So there's some common themes there that we're dealing with. It's funny. The characters are great. It's a true story, so it's great. The whole point is they don't take anything out. So there's some pretty bad language in it. I mean, it's no different than a rated R movie, but there's some bad language in it. But part of the point of the show is if you try to change things too much to please everybody, and I think the line in the show is, you're left with 2 tight paragraphs about kittens that your grandmother would be so proud of. But you can't do that. You've got to explore everything, and you might offend somebody with the language or the subject matter, whatever the case may be. But if you're not true to yourself, then what's the point of writing an original show, which is what this is about.
Wow, that sounds pretty interesting. And when you were saying, how many weeks do you have? When's it coming out?
Well, we open 4 weeks from tomorrow, and we've been rehearsing for a week. So we have 5 weeks of rehearsal, so it's pretty intense. Keeping in mind, we all have full-time jobs in addition to this. But it's a fun show. The music is great, but it's a little bit different from the shows that we've produced this year so far.
Great. So here I am at Jeff's house. There's a pizza mostly eaten, and a couple empty glasses of red wine, which is good for your heart, which is great. And rehearsal starts at 6:30, right?
That's right. It's almost.
So what's it going to be like? How's a typical rehearsal, or what's this rehearsal probably going to be like?
Wow, it's so different when you have so little time. So a typical rehearsal, if you've got a lot of time, would be, all right, let's read through the scene. I'm going to tell you, this would be Zach, he's directing this show as well. I'm going to tell you kind of what I envision here, where you're going to stand, where you're going to come in from, how you're going to do this. Let's run through it. Okay, let's run it. And then we go through the scene and we go, okay, here's a couple of pointers. Let's run it again. We go through the scene. All right, let's try this time. Go through the scene. When you only have 5 weeks left, you're sitting in a chair, basically where it will be on stage, with Zach saying, here's what I see here. Here's what I see here. You write it all down, you ask questions, and you go on to the next scene. You don't even get to rehearse it.
If I was looking to buy or sell a house, I would always think about who was my real estate agent and what were their results. Well, Johnny Walker and Kerry Cox hire the best real estate agents out there. Here's Elizabeth Denny to talk about one of her recent clients.
A teacher and a veteran who were buying their first house. And they've actually made fun of me because they said that I talked them out of absolutely everything that they wanted to buy and insisted that they wait for the right thing. But I feel like when you work as hard as they do and you have jobs that are as important as they have, our job is to be a good steward of their money and their future.
So please, if you're buying or selling a home, check out Johnny Walker Realty at 262 Church Street, just down from the Marietta Square. Give them a call at 678-626-0403 or check them out online, johnnywalkerrealty.com.
But he's leaving a lot out. There's a lot of laughter in between, a lot of silliness. So while we're very focused, and he's exactly right from the direction standpoint, at the end of the day, there's a lot of fun that's being had on the journey. Well,
there would be fun, but Jeff always gets so mad and tries to.
What's his trigger?
He tries to redirect the conversation. He's like, guys, we're running out of time here. Quit talking about that. Quit laughing and making jokes. We need to move on to the next scene. Which he's right, but where's the fun in that?
Yeah, it sounds a little chaotic.
He's like his character in the show. Actually, his character in the show, his name is Jeff. So Jeff is playing Jeff, and Jeff is Jeff.
Okay. So that sounds a little chaotic.
Yeah. It can be, but I mean, we're working with people that have done this stuff all the time. So if it were people you never work with, you'd be a little concerned about the chaos and the craziness and the silliness. But we've done this hundreds of times before. We know that in the end it'll be fun.
Cool. And
we won't. We will rehearse at a couple different locations. We have had the opportunity to rehearse in the studio and some of our other shows, but that costs money, and so not having much of that, we take the opportunity when it's just us to rehearse where we can. So we're going to rehearse at Jeff's house some. We're going to rehearse at my house some. 4 nights a week for the next few weeks until we move into the studio on the Sunday before we open. So we move in on Sunday, June 3rd. And we will rehearse probably that evening. Sunday night, we'll build the set, put all that stuff together. Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night we'll rehearse, and then Friday night we'll open. So that we call that Hell Week or Tech Week, but it's Hell Week. We get home late, we're exhausted, and then we got to do 3 shows right after. So 7 nights in a row of just doing the show, and then we collapse for 2 days and then do it again the next weekend.
So where are you right now tonight? What's your goal for trying to get through tonight?
So we're very early in the rehearsal schedule, so we are blocking. So Zach has mapped out over the next couple of rehearsals. We've blocked about 4 or 5 scenes so far. So tonight we'll pick up where we left off. And he has
explain blocking to folks.
Okay, blocking is basically saying you move here when you say this. You sit here when you say this. You have an expression of this when you say these things. So it's the director's vision for those characters. And there's also dialogue in terms of, well, what would my motivation be for saying that? Or why would I do that?
Gotcha. So where are you? So you said you want to go through blocking of how many scenes?
Well, so our goal is after tonight we'll be almost 50% through the whole show. So we're just about 30% right now. So we blocked about 4 scenes. Zach hopes to get through about 3 more tonight.
Now, have you memorized the script?
We have not. Zach's not happy about that. We talked about this last night. Most of us are more experiential learners, so while we've been looking at the lines and familiarizing yourself with the lines, once you know, okay, I sit here and I stand here and I move left here, that just helps you learn those lines, and then the more you do it, the easier it becomes.
Gotcha. Are you feel pretty good right now?
Nope.
What keeps you awake at night?
Well, nothing yet. It just took a while to get going. It's hard to pull everybody's schedules together. Our music director doesn't live nearby, so he's subject to traffic in his day job. Zach works downtown. That's his full-time job, so he's subject to traffic. Jeff and I don't work far from here. Jean Ann lives up in Woodstock and works in Marietta. So Becky lives in town. So it's everything seems to start 15 to 30 minutes later than you'd like. But again, we're kind of used to that. But nothing's keeping me awake right now. We'll just keep forging ahead. I've been trying to work on lines, but Jeff hit a good point. It's easier to learn lines when you repeat them and do them over and over and over again, like I was describing the typical rehearsal situation. This is different to just talk through it and then go home and read the line and look up and try to remember what it is and look at it again and look up and try to remember what it is. That's a lot harder. So once we start running it, things will pick up and it'll be a lot better.
I guess, like for me, a nightmare scenario is you're up on stage, you have a bunch of lines, and you forget just one portion of it and the whole thing collapses. Has that ever happened?
We don't talk about that.
Well, let's talk about it right now.
It happened. The only time I can remember major something like that happening is when I was really young. Was I in middle? I think it was early high school, and I had a song that I was singing, and I forgot the words completely. And I just walked around stage until I remember the next line, and I sang that and didn't remember what was after that, walked around a little more and sang it. So most of the time the audience doesn't know. And once you know the show, like by the end of the show, I'll know most of Jeff's lines, most of Becky's lines, and most of Jean Ann's lines. So you can either fill in or nudge or prompt or whatever the case may be.
I'd like to ask a question, maybe?
Yeah, and I was going to say, fortunately, that hasn't happened to the other actors that are going to be on the stage in this show. Just Blaine and we're prepared. No, but that is probably the most common question that I think that probably any of us get. And the reality is, if you're doing something you love, it just comes easier than you think it would. Because I find myself going at the beginning of a show, how the heck am I going to learn this? And the next thing you know, you're not thinking about it. It's just coming out. So some of it does come with good preparation, good direction, so you understand why you're doing what you're doing, and then having a great team that you want to make sure you're pulling your weight.
So it sounds like you're trying to give to the audience, but you're getting a heck of a lot out of this situation too. So tell folks, just from your perspective, why is it so important to support local theater here in Marietta?
Well, one thing that's impressed me a lot about Marietta and Cobb is the support they have for the arts, how many options there are for the arts in our community, in the schools. And, if you're trying to develop young people, to me, we want to expose them to all aspects of life, not only sports, but the arts and science. And I think that's one thing that Marietta and Cobb County does. They really do expose not only our young children, but adults to all aspects of life. And the arts is a very important part because it allows us all to access parts of our being that we might not otherwise, experience. And so that's, I guess, probably why we do what we do, is it just it's an escape.
Are you going to let him talk for you, Blaine? Is that good?
I would just add one thing, only because both of our wives are teachers at Powder Springs Elementary School, which is an arts integrated school. My wife Nikki teaches 5th grade, and Jeff's wife Tina teaches 1st grade. I met my wife through theater. She was the choreographer of a show that I did a long time ago. But she has a stage in her classroom, and she teaches those skills to her students. Not necessarily for the arts aspect, but for the confidence aspect and the self-esteem aspect. That's why it's important, not just to get something out of it like we do, just because it's fun, but to become a more confident person and learn how to talk to people or in front of in a room full of people.
You can be star in a podcast too.
What's that?
You can end up being a star in a podcast.
Yes, good. That's what I'm hoping for.
Well,
Or the supporting actor.
all right.
Jeff's a total diva. He's just bringing it out now. Gosh.
Now, I knew it would take a few minutes, but Schuler Hensley just did the Schuler Award, said instead of STEM, why don't we make it STEAM and put arts in there?
Yeah, I like it.
I think that's a real discussion, but why not? I'm in. I'll do it. I mean,
You want to work in the school system? Is that what you're saying?
nope. I guess.
You hear from your wife.
Yeah, I'll let her do it. She's much better at it than I am. That's for sure.
So who else is coming tonight, and how is that going to work? After it's 6:30, it's almost 6:30 now. How's it going to work?
Here's the real aspect. Here's how this really works, folks. This is from Zach. Stuck in traffic still. Run what we did last night until I get there. Becky, I know you're going to be late today too, right? So yes, of course, Becky's coming, Gina Ann's coming. Oh, here's from Gina Ann. Running late from an inspection. She's real estate, so she's there with a client who's doing. We're all just texting each other, trying to determine when we're going to get here. So that's what it's like. Jeff and I will probably run our scenes until they get here.
And the beauty is there's always something to work on. So we have solos, we have duets, so we always make the best use of our time. But again, we have a very talented cast. We said Gina Ann is one of the co-founders with us, and then Becky Ittner was in First Date. So she's familiar with Zach, has worked well with Zach before. So I think we have a strong cast that's having a good time working together.
Great. I'm excited to get to know you guys and keep up with you. So I'll come back and check in with you as we get closer to the big day, and tell folks how to get a hold of you and how to get tickets.
Great. Thank you. Yes. You can buy our tickets. The easiest way to do it is to buy online. www.mariettatheatre.tix.com. And theater is THEATRE and Tix is TIX. So mariettatheatre.tix.com.
And I'll put that in show notes, so they'll be easily available if you want to go to mariettastories.com and find the podcast episode and be able to get those. What's your character in the show, and what's his motivation or whatever? I don't even know a good question.
That's good. Mike, I play Hunter Bell. So these are real people. Hunter Bell and Jeff Cohen wrote the show. Hunter's the idea guy. He's just trying to get this done. He's kind of the pent up in his apartment writer kind of guy, kind of slobby, doesn't
his own head kind of thing.
Yeah, doesn't get out a whole lot, and just a little kind of a nervous Nelly about how everything's going to come together.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, and Jeff's Jeff Bowen, is it? Yeah,
Jeff Bowen. So Jeff is the composer, and of the duo, he is probably a little bit more straight-laced, trying to keep us on track kind of thing. And it really is kind of funny because we do have some similarities to these characters in real life.
Yeah, it sounds like a fun show. Is it pretty much hilariously funny?
Oh yeah, there's very few real serious moments. I mean, they're writing a show, and so they're together for 3 weeks writing this. A lot of funny stuff going on, cutting up, funny lyrics, funny lines. I mean, the character that Becky plays, Susan, is hilarious. She's always saying something out of the blue that just will just crack you up. But they do get a little tired of each other, and they do get a little apprehensive about doing this. I mean, they're trying to sell this and make it on Broadway, and when things don't quite go their way, there's some tension there. So the non-funny moments are very, very real. I mean, if it was all funny, it wouldn't be a real story.
Yeah, I agree. I don't like really farce stuff. I love where it really matches people. They're good, bad, ugly, happy, sad, all that stuff. So that sounds great. And how much are tickets? I didn't even ask.
Okay, tickets are $25 a piece, or you can buy a VIP table, which are the 4 tables we put right up front. Those are $125, 4 seats, and you get a bottle of wine. So the best seats in the house at a table with a bottle of wine. It's those tend to sell first. I wish we had the space to do more of those, but we just don't. But that's the way to do it. It's fun.
All right. Well, I really appreciate you guys' time. It looks like it's a really fun thing, and I'm so excited that we're keeping live theater available for folks, because the pendulum's going to swing back. People are going to get out there, and we have so many cool things going on in Marietta, in the square, And I think this really helps, and hopefully you can bring back the old feeling from the Marietta Theater in the Square. And we already know what Raul Thomas is up to with the new theater in the Square, so and the Strand for that matter. So it's an exciting time to be in Marietta. There's a lot of creative things going on, and I appreciate what you guys are up to and all the hard work you put in to get this thing going.
Well, thank you. And you bring up a good point. I mean, there are theatrical or live entertainment options on the Marietta Square, but I think we all are very different. The Strand, the Raul's new Marietta Theater in the Square does great work, and then the Lyric Studio. I mean, but we all do different things. I mean, we're a small space. The Lyric is a big space. The Strand is a beautiful interior with the marble floors in the lobby and those productions they do. And Raul is doing some really good things at Theater in the Square. So I really think there's room for all of us. No reason not to check all those out.
Great. And thanks so much, Jeff and Blaine, for your time.
Thank you for having us.
All right. That's good, man.